At the start of the episode, we see a girl named Lily waking up Zenas, who is our main character. After that, Lily starts preparing breakfast. Then we learn about healers in this world. The first-class healers are considered to be the best as much as they can make the whole world a better place. Next, we learn about the Herzith Kingdom, whose entire history revolves around healers. The kingdom is famous for training healers. The Royal Hospital is a place where all healers gather to learn healing magic, and before starting their healing journey, this is where they receive their licenses. But in a corner of the kingdom, there's this guy, our main protagonist, who uses healing magic without any license or formal education. We see Zenas healing someone, and in return, the guy pays him. Just then, Lily arrives and reminds Zenas that he has to make a house call before nightfall. After Zenas leaves, Lily starts preparing food again. But then Carmelia shows up, who seems to be a spirit, and she gets super excited when she finds out Lily is cooking. During this scene, we also learn that Lily wants to be Zenas' wife one day, and Carmelia is also very happy about that. After Carmelia goes back to her room, Zofia enters the scene. She has come to meet Zenas, but since he isn't home, she decides to wait for him. Zofia was hoping she could win Zenas over right away, but that doesn't happen, because another beast girl named Linga shows up, and she too has come for Zenas. But since he's not home, she also decides to wait. Zofia and Linga are clearly not happy to see each other, since they're both waiting for Zenas. Their conversation reveals that there's some kind of rivalry between them for Zenas. Then another character shows up, a ogre girl named Loie, who has also come for Zenas. After seeing each other, none of the three are particularly happy. On top of that, Loie is also there for the food. Meanwhile, Lily finishes cooking and heads out for work, telling them to take care of the food because, in the end, they'll all be having dinner together. But as soon as Lily leaves, Linga and Loie immediately dive into the food trying to taste Lily because they can't wait any longer. Seeing them eat, Zofia can't resist either, and she joins in under the excuse of just tasting it. On the other side, we see Lily lying outside after collecting the cloths, hoping that Zenas will return soon. Meanwhile, the three girls end up completely finishing the food. At this point, they start blaming each other. "I didn't eat anything, you ate it all." But since they know the situation could get really bad, they decide to cook more food because hey, everything just needs to be thrown in one pot, right? Just as they start cooking, Lily returns and asks for an explanation. Seeing her, all three of them freak out and start blaming each other again. "I didn't eat anything. These two did." The situation escalates so much that they eventually admit their mistake and start insulting each other. Seeing this, Lily calms them down, saying that if Zenas sees them like this, he'll definitely scold them. Then they all start saying how they'll help Lily with the cooking, but Lily tells them that there aren't any ingredients left. Just then, Carmelia arrives, super angry after finding out that all the food has been eaten. Seeing her furious, all three of them beg with their heads down and start apologizing. But Carmelia says she'll taste their souls to see if they're truly sorry. However, Lily assigns them the task of going out and gathering all the ingredients. After they leave, Lily reveals that even her last herb has run out, and now she doesn't know what to do. Hearing this, Carmelia says, "Then you should be even angrier." But Lily replies, "What's done is done. There's nothing we can do now." Then Carmelia warns, "It's good that they only ate my food. If they dared to lay hands on my wine, they would be cursed by now." Meanwhile, we see Zenas, who is coming back from the house call. A girl passes by him, clutching her stomach in pain. Just then, her master angrily asks where she had gone. She replies that her stomach was hurting, so she went to the hospital. But because she had no money, they refused to check her. Hearing this, the man gets furious. Despite witnessing all this, Zenas says nothing. The man drags the girl to a grave and cruelly says, "This is the perfect place for worthless demi-human like you." Just then, a dark shadow emerges from the grave and enters the girl's body. Suddenly, the man starts beating her. But then, out of nowhere, the girl stops speaking and violently attacks him. His blood starts pouring out. It seems like the girl was being controlled by something. Seeing this, the man panics and runs straight to Zenas, telling him that his slave is completely out of control and begs Zenas to do something. Zenas was shocked and asks, "What were you even doing to her?" To which the man casually replies, "Just our usual work, farming." The man offers Zenas money in return for help. Suddenly, the girl attacks again, but Zenas saves him. Zenas then asks her, "Why have you become so violent?" But the girl starts throwing stones at him, which Zenas easily dodges, leaving the man stunned. The man tells Zenas to just kill the girl, but Zenas says, "Taking lives isn't my job." The man protests, saying, "She's just a slave, we can replace her easily." But Zenas replies, "As much as I can, I'll try to save lives, because I'm a healer." Then the girl hurls a massive stone at Zenas, but he shatters it with a single punch. Seeing this, the man loses his mind. "You call yourself a healer, but you're breaking stones like that?" Just then, the girl charges at Zenas with a slash, but a shield suddenly appears in front of him, deflecting the attack. The girl's condition had worsened a lot. She said she was in severe pain and couldn't go on like this. Seeing her state, Zenas said, "Now I understand," and then offered his hand for her to bite. After that, he used a healing ability which healed all her wounds, and the black shadow inside her also disappeared. Then Zenas says, "I don't know what kind of farming you're doing that ghosts are possessing your slaves," and he even exorcises the ghost. On the other hand, when the man sees Zenas using his healing ability, he's completely shocked and starts begging Zenas to heal him too. But Zenas says, "I've done enough for today. I'll come back tomorrow." Hearing this, the man panics and says, "I'll be dead by tomorrow." To which Zenas replies, "If that's the case, you'll have to pay extra." The man immediately pulls out a pouch of money, but Zenas says, "That's way too little." The man argues, "I'm already paying more than the market price." Then Zenas says, "I'm an underground healer without a license." Hearing this, the man is stunned, as he had never heard of anything like that before. Then Zenas says, "If you don't want to pay extra, I'm taking your slave." The man agrees, saying, "Fine, take whatever you want." So Zenas heals him, and the man hands over the girl's papers to Zenas and leaves. Next, we see Zenas sitting somewhere with the girl. When she regains consciousness, she's very confused. Zenas explains that he has bought her. We also learn the girl's name, Tel. Then suddenly, Zenas tells her to take off her clothes. Tel is shocked by this, but since he's now her master, she can't refuse and starts undressing. Upon seeing her body, Zenas says, "You have a stone in stomach, this is what causes your intense pain." He then heals her, and the pain goes away, leaving her astonished. Zenas says, "Any healer could have done this, it's normal." But Tel replies, "This isn't normal at all," and thanks him sincerely. Zenas responds, "Do you think thank you is enough?" He explains that she'll need to work to repay the help. Tel agrees, ready to do whatever it takes. Then Zenas shows her a book and asks, "Can you find this for me?" Tel says yes and takes him to a place where Zenas finds all the herbs he had been looking for. Tel asks what she has to do next, but Zenas says, "I always offer fair payment for labor." Still, Tel feels like she hasn't done much yet. Zenas explains that even this leaf is important to him. He then tears up her slave contract and sets her free. Tel was shocked. She has lived her whole life as a slave, and now she has no idea what to do next. She tells Zenas that once she figures out what she wants to do with her life, she'll come back and tell him. Hearing that, Zenas smiles and says, "If you ever need healing again, come to my clinic, but of course, it won't be free." After that, we see Zenas returning home, where Lily was waiting for him. But Lily tells him the food isn't ready yet, as those 3 idiots hadn't brought the ingredients back. Just then, the trio shows up with all the supplies and ingredients, and they begin cooking. But right then, Carmelia shows up and says to Zenas, "I can sense you met a new girl." Zenas tells her to stop talking nonsense. Then we see a flashback, where Zenas' old team giving him a gold coin, saying that a poor boy like him probably has never even seen one before. Zenas asks, "What do you mean by that?" The party leader replies, "Zenas, you're of no use to us now." Zenas says, "But you were the one who extended a hand of friendship to me when we were kids." Aston laughs and says, "You're still the same fool as before." He never considered Zenas a friend. In his eyes, Zenas was nothing more than a slave. Now they are much stronger, and his useless healing magic isn't necessary. Aston tells him that we have to look good in front of the royals, and having a peasant like you in the party wouldn't reflect well on us. That gold coin should be enough for you for a few days. And forget you were ever part of the Golden Phoenix party. Hearing all this, Zenas walks away. On the other side, we see Lily in chains. Her owner has sold her to a savage adventurer. That man tries to force himself on her, but Lily attacks him and tries to run. The man shoots an arrow at her, and she collapses. As he comes closer, Lily bites his hand, so the man stabs her with a dagger. Her owner gets angry at the man because Lily was now about to die and nobody would buy her now. Just then, Zenas passes by and sees Lily bleeding heavily. He buys her with the gold coin and takes her away. As Lily was on the verge of death, Zenas heals her. She was shocked to be alive. Zenas tells her he's a healer and that healing such wounds is easy for him. Lily starts crying, thanking Zenas, and says, "You lost your gold coin because of me." But Zenas doesn't care about the coin, he never wanted to keep it anyway. Lily asks if he's a famous healer, but Zenas says he doesn't even have a license, he learned healing on his own. First, they go buy some clothes for Lily. Then they visit a restaurant, where Lily wears a new dress. Only she eats because poor Zenas doesn't have any money left. Lily asks what he does for a living. Zenas tells her he was kicked out of his party and has no job now. Just then, a wounded lizard man enters the restaurant. Zenas instantly figures out he was attacked with a magic gun. Lily brings him some water. Seeing him in pain, Zenas uses healing magic and instantly heals the man. Lily says, Zenas is amazing, and the man was also shocked and said, "I've never seen such an awesome healer." The man gives Zenas some money before leaving, which makes Zenas realize he can earn money by healing people. Zenas decides that he'll open a clinic. But since he doesn't have a license, he decides to run it illegally in secret. Lily says she'll help because Zenas bought her, so he's now her master. And if he doesn't let her help, she'll get angry. Zenas says, "Alright, you can stay with me until I find a safe place for you." Lily happily says, "I'll take really good care of you, master." After that, Zenas brings Lily to a place that looks like a ruin to set up his secret clinic. Since no one lived in this area, it was totally a deserted ruin, which makes it perfect for Zenas to run his underground clinic without any trouble. Zenas spots a pretty decent looking building, but the place looks scary just at a glance, so Lily grabs onto Zenas out of fear. That's because such places can be home to wraith monsters, powerful undead creatures that look human but kill people and turn them into ghosts. As the two steps inside, Lily uses her light magic to brighten the area, which impresses Zenas as he didn't know that she could use magic. They look around, and Zenas starts liking the place, especially since he used to spend most nights outdoors when he was still in his party. Lily wonders what Zenas has been through, and he replies that he's lost everything, so now he tries to find the good in whatever's left. But then, suddenly, Lily hides behind Zenas, scared, because someone is already there. That someone is none other than Carmilla, a wraith. Zenas says, "Oh, so someone was already living here?" But Lily panics and says, "She's a wraith." In the very next moment, Carmilla attacks Zenas, but he repels her with his magic. Carmilla looks at her arms and sees they've been blown off. We find out that back when Zenas was in his party, Aston would often send him deep into dangerous dungeons, where he faced hundreds of undead monsters, yet Zenas always came out unharmed. Zenas tells Carmilla, "I really like this building. I want to live here. I won't disturb you at all." But then, Carmilla regenerates her arms and says, "I want your life." However, due to Zenas' healing magic, she can't get close to him. This frustrates her and she says, "Impossible. No one has ever stood their ground before Queen of Spectres Carmilla." She then summons her undead servants to finish off Zenas. He's surrounded from all sides, but with one burst of healing magic, Zenas wipes them all out, stunning Carmilla. Zenas repeats, "We won't disturb you at all if we stay here." Carmilla finally agrees and says, "Fine. You can have the first floor, but the second floor is mine." Zenas turns to Lily and says, "We found our clinic." But Lily's expression says it all, like, "Bro, this guy's powers are on another level." The next day, Lily looks bored while helping Zenas clean the place so they can open their clinic. She suggests maybe they should go outside and advertise, or else no patients will show up. Just then, someone arrives. Lily notices it's the same person Zenas healed earlier. Zenas already expected he'd show up. He had figured out that the guy was involved in shady business, which is probably why he wouldn't go to the royal hospital. The guy's name is Day, and this time he brings his sister, Zofia. Since she got shot, there's been a strange wound on her arm. Zenas examines it and explains that it's due to poison and the bullet was still lodged in her arm. Zofia asks, "Can you heal me?" Zenas replies, "Yes, but I'll charge 1 million coins for it." Hearing this, Zofia says, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Zofia the Tornado." Zofia was one of the 3 bosses who rule over the slums and was also known as a savior of the poor. She says, "You want 1 million coins just to cut off my arm? That's too much." But Zenas tells her that he won't just cut her arm but he'll regenerate it too. And regeneration consumes a lot of power. Hearing that, Zofia says, "What are you talking about? I've never even heard of a healer who can regenerate a body part." This surprises Zenas too. In the next scene, Zenas begins Zofia's operation. She was shocked to see that Zenas creates a knife using just his magic. He then cuts off her arm and begins the real work. He uses healing magic, and we can literally see her arm regenerate before your eyes. but doing so leaves Zenas extremely exhausted. Zofia says she's never seen a healer like him before. Then everyone was even more surprised to learn that Zenas lives with the death monster lady, Carmilla. Zofia says, "You really are something else." Later that night, Lily prepares tea for Zenas. Zenas notices there are 3 cups, because Miss Carmilla was going to join them for tea as well. While drinking tea, Lily comments that ever since Sophia came, they've been getting way more patience. She wonders how the lizard men keep getting injured so often. He explains that in the broken down slums, there are 3 kinds of demi-humans, and they're always fighting among themselves. The lizard men, the orcses, and the 3rd kind might be on their way to meet them now. And sure enough, a group of beastmen break into their home, led by none other than Linga. Linga runs an underground illegal casino network. She is known as Linga the Tyrant. Zenas asks, "You broke down the door, what's the emergency?" Linga replies, "Oh, there is an emergency. No matter how much we beat up Zofia's lizards, they always heal quickly and come back to fight us. And I found out you are the reason behind that. That's why I'm here to kill you." Without any warning, Linga swings an axe at Zenas, but surprisingly her axe shatters on contact with his protection shield. Zenas tells Lily, "What are you looking at? Go to your room." Meanwhile, Linga was shocked. "My axe broke?" All of Beastmen then try to attack Zenas together, but nothing works on him. So instead, they start destroying his stuff out of frustration. That's when Carmilla enters the room. Seeing her, everyone panics. She's about to attack them, but Zenas stops her. She asks, "Why are you stopping me?" Zenas replies, "This is my clinic. Lives are saved here, not taken." Hearing that, Carmilla backs off. Linga was completely stunned. How could a wraith actually listen to a human? Out of fear, she kneels and apologizes to Zenas. Beastmen are terrified of races more powerful than them, like vampires and wraiths. Following her lead, all of Linga's goons also apologize to Zenas. Seeing this, Zenas is like, "What is even happening right now?" The next day, the scene shifts, and a few days later, an orc arrives at Zenas' doorstep and says, "Lady Loey, the leader of the orcs, wants to meet you." But he wasn't surprised at all. He had already encountered the other 2 leaders of the slums, so meeting the 3rd one was almost inevitable. Zenas asks the orc, "Why didn't Loey come herself?" The orc replies, "What do you think? That our leader would just walk into enemy territory?" Then Zenas, getting serious, asks, "How bad is the situation?" The orc says, "She can't even move anymore." Hearing this, Zenas agrees to go meet Loey. We then see Zenas arriving at the orc base. Seeing him, Loey says, "So you're the underground healer who has become a celebrity among the people." She continues, "At first, I couldn't believe there was a healer who was treating everyone in the slums." Zenas wasn't happy hearing this, as he never wanted publicity. Because of the other 2 leaders, his popularity had skyrocketed, and he could no longer stay underground. Loey goes on to say, "I heard you'll heal anyone for the right price." Zenas replies, "Yes, I don't work for free." Zenas then internally scans Lovey's body, since there was no visible injury. Loey was shocked because this is the first time she's seen a healer do something like that. Zenas senses mana inside Lovey's stomach and realizes there's a mana stone inside her. Lovey tells him, "It's not just any mana stone, it has an enchantment of explosion on it, and it's extremely powerful." Zenas asks, "Did your enemies make you swallow it?" Loey tells him, "No, I mistook it for a rice ball and ate it." Hearing this, Zenas calls her an idiot and says there's nothing he can do. As he was leaving, he adds, "You'll have it out of your system the other way in morning." But Loey says that's not possible, because she already chewed it, and if she moves carelessly, it could explode at any moment. She explains that her people won't leave her side because they want to die with her, and if it explodes, the entire area will be wiped out. To save her slum, Loey is ready to give Zenas all her wealth and even hands him the key to her vault. Zenas immediately gets to work, makes a cut on her stomach, and within a second removes the mana stone. Everyone was completely shocked seeing this. Zenas explains, "I just made a cut, removed the mana stone, and healed you right after." Loey warns him that the mana stone could still explode at any moment. Hearing this, Zenas quickly wraps the stone in his hands, and it does explode, but Zenas doesn't get even a scratch. Everyone was even more shocked seeing that. Zenas says, "I created a barrier, so I wasn't hurt, and whatever pain I felt, I already healed that." He then returns Loey's keys, and she asks, "Why did you refuse my fortune?" Zenas tells her, "Compared to the work I did, that was way too much." Loey starts liking Zenas as well. She says, "If you ever need me, just let me know," but Zenas wasn't interested, as he wants to stay away from all this popularity. Then the scene shifts to Zenas' clinic, where Lily was angry because the other 3 girls were also sitting there. Zenas notices and asks, "Did all of them come here for me?" Carmilla replies, This is called love. Besides, you're very talented. Hearing this, Zenith says, that's not true. I'm just an unknown underground healer. Carmilla tells him that she has 300 years of experience and nothing escapes her eye. Even Lily was a bit concerned because the other 3 girls were really beautiful. Seeing that, Carmilla even compliments Lily, which makes her a little happy. On the other hand, Zenith starts thinking, these 3 leaders are fighting over me, and I don't even find that funny. The next day, we see Zofia telling Zenith, I've decided to declare war on the other 2, so everyone knows that you're on my side. Just then, the other 2 girls arrive as well and say the exact same thing. Seeing all this, even Zenith says, alright, why don't you all just fight it out? This time, Carmilla gets really excited because an all-out war meant a lot of people were going to die and that brought her joy. The next day, we see the arena where everyone has gathered and even Zenith arrives, not to stop them, but to watch their match. Zenith says, you've been fighting for years. I want this fight to end today. With Zenith's approval, everyone gets ready for war and starts attacking each other because whoever survives till the end, Zenith will side with them. Then we see it's already evening, and not a single person has died in the arena, not even injured because Zenith kept healing everyone immediately after they got hurt. Everyone was shocked to see this. They couldn't believe that Zenith had the stamina to keep healing for so long. Everyone also realizes Zenith's intention behind this plan. He wanted to give them the satisfaction of fighting, without actually letting them harm each other. Then Zenith says, with that, everything ends here. Whoever needed revenge has had their fill. But if you still want to fight, that's great for me, because I'll make a lot of money healing you. Hearing this, everyone laughs and decides to live together in peace. Zenith tells Lily how his master once told him that a healer can only be first class if they try to make the world a better place. Lily then asks, what was your master like? Zenith tells her, he was weird but impressive. Zenith also decides to make the slums a better place. Then Lily says to Zenith, I really like you. Zenith replies, I like you too. But Lily meant it romantically. She had fallen in love with him. Then the scene shifts to the royal capital, where the division commander tells his vice commander Krishna about some concerning rumors that the demi-humans of the slums have started living together peacefully. One reason was that the group leaders are now working together. Hearing this, Krishna was also surprised. Because the demi-human wars had been going on for years, how did they suddenly stop? The commander tells Krishna, we can't ignore this. If they attack us together, it'll be a huge problem. Each gang leader alone is already powerful, and together they could cause major trouble. They also suspect that some external party might be involved, someone forcing the 3 groups to unite. Because of all this, the commander orders Krishna to go to the slums and investigate. Then the scene shifts to Zenith's house, where everyone has gathered again. Zenith sneezes, and all the girls immediately get ready to become his pillow. Seeing this, Lily gets really jealous, because she didn't have anything that the other 3 had. Just then, Zenith heals Sophia, who got slightly hurt while working. Then they start talking about a royal knight, who had previously injured Sophia and her brother, and she was extremely strong and is also known as Iron Rose. But before they can talk more about this topic, the dinner was ready. On the other side, we see a scene in the slums where everyone was living together in harmony. Krishna also arrives there. Seeing everyone getting along surprises her a lot, and she thinks, is this really the slums? She tries to get some information from a lizard man, but he refuses to say anything. Seeing this, Krishna points her gun at him, but he still refuses to speak, even ready to die rather than talk. Just then he spots Sophia and starts calling out to her. Seeing this, Krishna runs away because she didn't want to attract too much attention. As she was leaving, she notices Sophia and her brother's arms, which were now completely healed. This shocks her because Krishna herself had injured them. She couldn't understand how their wounds had healed so quickly. While lost in thought, she realizes that she's lost in the slums. As she wanders around, she ends up at Zenith's house. She then approaches Zenith and asks for directions, but before he can say anything, Lily shows up. The moment Krishna sees an elf child, she holds Zenith at gunpoint and fires at him. The bullet releases a poisonous smoke that completely envelopes Zenith. Seeing this, Lily gets extremely scared. Krishna says, you're an elf, which means he's not your real family. I must say, you're smart to set up a base in these ruins. Lily tries to explain to Krishna that she's misunderstood. Zenith had actually saved her from a kidnapper. Hearing this, Krishna was stunned and realizes she acted too rashly. She apologizes and explains that the gas wasn't lethal, but Zenith would be unconscious for a while. Just then, Zenith begins to speak. I thought the only issue you had was your sense of direction, but clearly there's more going on here. Krishna was even more shocked as Zenith should have been unconscious. So how did he survive? She apologizes again and asks how he did it. Zenith replies that he used defensive magic. Krishna thinks he's joking, because no defensive magic can block a magic gun. She examines Zenus closely and says, "You're really not hurt at all. How is that possible?" Then she asks, "Are you some famous divine sorcerer who spent his whole life mastering defensive magic?" Zenus denies this and says he's just an ordinary person. Meanwhile, Lily was already bored from listening to all this. Krishna says, "You can't fool the eyes of a royal order knight like me." Hearing this, both Zenus and Lily were shocked. Krishna was the vice commander of the royal order. Krishna then asks, "Will you cooperate with me?" She starts talking about her secret investigation in the slums, where she is searching for someone to bring into custody. Zenus asks, "Did I ever say I'd cooperate with you?" Krishna adds, "It's the duty of a citizen to assist the royal order knights." Zenus doesn't reply to that and instead asks, "Who exactly are you looking for?" Krishna replies, "I'm searching for the one who united all 3 demi-human factions in the slums." And upon hearing this, Zenus was completely shocked because the person Krishna was looking for was none other than Zenus himself. On the other side, Carmilla was enjoying the entire situation while remaining invisible, which was irritating Zenus even more. At that moment, Krishna explains that the royal knights cannot ignore such a powerful force. She also mentions that she tried to extract information from a lizard man but got nothing. She says, "This mediator clearly knows how to control people, which can only mean one thing: he's a servant of the devil." Hearing this, Zenus responds, "It could also be that the person is simply trying to avoid drawing attention. It would be better if we just ignore him." Krishna then asks, "Do you know this mediator?" To which Zenus denies. Carmilla was thoroughly enjoying all this because Krishna was unknowingly talking about Zenus, who was standing right in front of her. Then Zenus offers to show Krishna the way back to the city. Hearing this, Krishna says, "You seem in a real hurry to get rid of me." But just then, she notices a bed lying in the hall. Zenus tells her it's just a spare bed that they'll be throwing out soon. Krishna then asks, "Can I use this place as my base until my investigation is complete?" Hearing this, Zenus was surprised, but since Krishna offers to pay rent, he can't directly say no. However, Lily was clearly unhappy with the decision. She rudely hands Krishna some tea, walks over to Zenus, and tells him to pat her head. Zenus can't understand why Lily was so angry. Carmilla, observing all of this, tells him, "Lily is jealous." Meanwhile, Lily was trying really hard to make Krishna feel jealous, playing with Zenus' hair, feeding him food, but none of it seems to affect Krishna at all. Seeing this, Carmilla was entertained even more, which only irritates Zenus further. Lily keeps fussing over Zenus, playing with his hair or trying to feed him, but Krishna remains completely unfazed. This frustrates Lily so much that eventually she gives up and goes to sleep. After putting her to bed, Zenus finally has a one-on-one conversation with Krishna. Krishna says, "You said that Elf was caught by slave traders. Do you know who they were?" Zenus replies, "No." Krishna then asks, "Are you a mage who's mastered defensive magic?" Zenus denies it again. Krishna continues, "Even if someone has mastered healing magic, they still can't fully regenerate a hand. Only saints or a few high-level mages can do that." She then explains how she had badly injured Zophia's arm during their fight, but by morning, Zophia's arm was completely healed. She says, "If someone in the slums is capable of such high-level healing magic, then that changes everything." Krishna adds that in the coming days, she plans to arrest the mediator and investigate all of these matters. Zenus then asks, "What do you have against the slums?" Krishna begins telling the story of her mother, who was killed by someone from the slums. Her mother was a proud and kind lady who used to go to the slums to feed the hungry. But one day, only her dead body returned. Krishna was told that someone had killed her to steal her wedding ring. Krishna says, "She helped so many people, but not one of them came forward to save her." She continues, "From that day, I decided to become an invincible hero. Following that path, I became the youngest vice commander in history and earned the nickname Iron Rose." The scene then shifts to the next morning, where we see Zenus healing Zofia. He remembers that Krishna had left early that morning, saying she would return by night. Just then, Carmilla tells him, "Don't think too much about that girl. I've been alive for 300 years, and I've seen plenty of emotional stories like this." Zofia was about to say something about Krishna, but just then Krishna shows up again because she had lost her way once more. As soon as Krishna and Zofia see each other, both get ready to fight, which shocks Zenus. He quickly makes up an excuse, saying that Zofia also ended up there after losing her way, and surprisingly, Krishna believes him. After that, Zofia and Krishna start taunting each other. Krishna then says, "I know you have a mediator, and that same person healed you because your hand should have been in terrible condition. Zofia replies, I've heard the Royal Knights are investigating child trafficking cases. I know you won't believe me, but there's an aristocrat named Calendar who's behind all of this. Krishna doesn't believe it, because in her view, the root of every problem lies in the slums. Zofia says, your idea of justice is nothing but a joke. At that moment, Xena steps between them, and Krishna tells him to move aside. But Xena says, I'm sorry, but Zofia is my patient. And he reveals the truth, that he is the mediator Krishna has been looking for. Krishna can't believe it. She thinks Xenos has mastered defensive magic, and it's impossible for someone to master both defensive and healing magic. She says the mediator is a healing master. Xenos clarifies, I haven't mastered anything, but I do know how to use both types of magic. Krishna still struggles to believe it, but she realizes Xenos is clearly on the side of the demi-humans. She says, I'll have to find a different location to complete my investigation, and then she leaves. Krishna goes straight to Calendar's mansion, but before entering, she leaves her guns outside. She confronts Calendar about the thieves and gives him a warning, but Calendar was already prepared. He had significantly increased his security. Krishna inspects the security of the mansion again and also investigates the surrounding area, but she finds nothing suspicious. Before leaving, she asks to use the restroom and starts looking around. She finds it strange that the mansion has way more guards than usual. Then she spots a well. When she goes down into the well, she finds many children inside. She tells them, stay calm, I'm here to help, I'm a hero. But suddenly, she gets shot from behind by a mana bullet, fired by none other than Calendar himself. Calendar mocks her and says, the guns of the Royal Knights are really something. He taunts and threatens her. Krishna starts to believe she won't survive, when suddenly Zofia appears and says, are you really going to die this easily? And she was not alone, Xenos was with her. Calendar, seeing them, threatens to kill both of them too. But Xenos doesn't flinch. Calendar attacks Xenos with his gun, but Xenos doesn't even get a scratch. Seeing this, Calendar panics, falls back, and drops his gun. Xenos points the gun at him, and Calendar gets so scared that he starts begging for his life. But Xenos shoots him with a minimum power mana bullet, knocking him unconscious without causing serious injury. After that, Krishna says, it's too late for me now, I won't survive. Xenos replies, don't worry, and uses his healing magic to instantly heal her. Krishna was still in disbelief. Xenos says, I'm just an underground healer running a rundown clinic. Krishna says, I'm no hero you are. But Xenos replies, not at all. My job is to heal people, especially those in pain. That's what I was taught. Then he tells Krishna, you're the real hero. You saved these children. Krishna looks at the children and says, don't worry, I'll get you all out of here. After this, she becomes quite emotional. Then we see many lizard men arrive, and together they help rescue the children. Zofia says, we should get out of here quickly. The Royal Knights could show up at any moment. But Krishna stops her and asks, why did you save me? Xenos says, you haven't paid my bill yet. I want the money for the bed and also for healing you just now. If you died, who'd pay me? Hearing this, Krishna bursts into laughter. After a while, we see the slums area where Xenos and Lily were returning home. Both were very excited to try a new tea. In the next scene, we see a flashback where Xenos was quite young and lying in a corner of the slums. That's when Aston appears. He was looking for someone. As soon as he notices Xenos, he approaches him and starts a conversation. He finds out that Xenos neither has a home nor any job. Aston then invites Xenos to join him on an adventure. Xenos replies, people from the slums can't become adventurers. Aston laughs and says, yeah, that's normal, but if you have skill, you can climb any ladder. Then Aston asks if Xenos has any skills. Xenos replies, yeah, I know a bit of healing magic. Aston laughs to himself, thinking, how can a poor slum kid with no education know healing magic? He thinks it's nothing short of a joke. Still, Aston decides to take him into his party, but in his eyes, Xenos was nothing more than a slave. We are then shown a scene where Aston is fighting a monster. During the battle, Aston gets injured, but Xenos was able to heal him easily from far distance. However, Aston doesn't notice this. After killing the monster, Aston thinks Xenos is really completely useless. Soon after, Aston kicks Xenos out of the party. The scene shifts to the present, where we see Aston heading out on a mission with his team. They are after specifically the pelt of a fire wolf to gift to their noble master. Some of the team members were still hungover from the night before. They talk among themselves about how the villagers were impressed when they heard their group's name. Aston boasts that their group can kill any magical beast without suffering any injuries. Suddenly, some flaming wolves appear. Aston gets really excited, because he wants to kill them and gift their pelts to his lord. One of his party members uses defensive magic, and Aston dodges a fireball attack, but the very next attack badly injures his hands. Meanwhile, another teammate was severely wounded, and their defensive magic also stops working. Eventually, they have no choice but to retreat. Aston says, "These were just B-rank monsters, so how did we get into so much trouble?" He then thinks to himself that he should have had a healer in his party like Zenus. Then we are shown a scene 10 days later. Aston and his group return with a new healer in their party. The healer is a girl who says, "Don't expect too much from me. I'm just a normal healer from the capital. By chance, I had an adventuring license so I came along. But why do you even need a mid-rank healer like me?" Aston says nothing. He was busy imagining how he'll kill the flaming fox, turn its pelt into a scarf, gift it to his lord, and finally become part of the nobles and upper caste. Then, as they enter the cave, the flaming wolves are already waiting and ambush them. This time, Aston was prepared, but luck isn't on his side. A fireball critically damages his mage, and Aston was unable to land even a single hit on the wolves. He asks the healer to heal him, but she says, "This man is in a really bad condition. We need to get out of here immediately. If he doesn't receive proper treatment soon, he won't survive." Hearing this, Aston becomes very angry because nothing was going his way. After coming out of the cave, he also lashes out at the defensive magic user, blaming him for the failure of his magic. But then the healer explains that the defensive magic was working just fine. If it hadn't been, that teammate would have been dead long ago. Aston tells the healer to hurry up and heal him because they need to go back inside. But the healer tells him she has done everything she could, and even a higher rank healer wouldn't be able to do more in this situation. If he wants better results, he'll have to hire an elite or a saint. Hearing this, Aston was shocked. Ever since he kicked Zenus out of his party, every mission has been failing. He asks the healer, "Is it possible for someone to use saint-level magic without being an elite or attending school?" The girl doesn't understand what he's talking about, and Aston himself becomes confused because, in his eyes, Zenus was just a slave. The scene changes, and we see Aston receiving a letter from his lord. In the letter, the lord informs him not to contact him again, as Aston failed to complete his mission on time. Aston pleads with the butler for one more chance. But the butler tells him that the lord was humiliated in front of his daughter because he had planned to give her the scarf as a birthday gift. But her birthday had already passed. Aston suddenly bows down and begs for another chance. But the butler refuses again. So Aston makes up an excuse, saying that one of his team members betrayed him and that's why the mission failed. Eventually, he is given one more chance. He thinks to himself that now he has no choice but to bring back his slave. But in his mind he thinks that Zenus should feel grateful that Aston is even willing to take him back. The scene changes again. Aston was searching for Zenus with one of his teammates in the slums. His teammate asks, "Do you think Zenus is still alive?" To this, Aston says, "I gave him a gold coin, so of course he must have survived." Aston then makes a plan to hire the leaders of the 3 demi-human gangs to find Zenus. First, he goes to the Lizard Man gang leader, Zofia. But Zofia says she's busy because she has a doctor's appointment. Meanwhile, Aston looks at Zofia and thinks how hot she is, and how, once he becomes a noble, he'll keep a girl like her by his side. As an introduction, he tells her his group's name and rank, but Zofia cuts him off and says, "Skip the nonsense and get to the point." Aston says, "I want you to find someone named Zenus." Hearing this, Zofia bursts out laughing and says, "Oh, you're that idiot who kicked Doctor out of your party, right? Not just your actions, your face also looks like a donkey." Aston gets furious and prepares to fight, forgetting that he's in the middle of the Lizard Man territory. Zofia says, "Zenus has a lot more important things to do than meeting someone like you," and chases Aston away. Next, Aston goes to Linga. But the moment he mentions Zenus, she humiliates him badly. Finally, he goes to Loie, who also insults him harshly and even threatens him, saying that if he dares to bother Zenus again, she won't spare him. Seeing all this, Aston was completely lost in disbelief. How could all 3 slum leaders know Zenus? He starts thinking maybe it's some other Zenus. Just then, he sees Zenus walking by with Lily. Aston suddenly appears in front of them and says, "Looks like you managed to survive without us." Zenus replies, "What are you guys doing here? Anyway, forget it, I have a lot of work to do." And he starts walking away without even listening. Seeing this, Aston was shocked and says, "Where are you going? I came here to offer you a chance to rejoin the party." But Zenus immediately rejects the offer. Aston can't believe that Zenus turned him down. He says, "How can you reject me?" Zenus replies, "You people never appreciated me, and I barely got paid for my work." Even then, Aston insists, "You can't refuse my offer. I'm giving you another chance to come back. Have you forgotten? I was the one who got you out of here and made you an adventurer." Zenus says, "Yes, I remember, and I was grateful back then. But things have changed now. I've opened my own clinic here, and I earn money for healing people in millions, in fact." Aston snaps, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Just then, several demi-humans arrive and speak to Zenus warmly. Zenus tells Aston, "You're too late now. and begins to walk away again. Aston can't bear this and suddenly charges to attack Zenus, but before he can, a magic bullet hits him. The one who fired it was none other than Krishna. Even Zenus was a bit surprised to see her. Krishna explains that she got lost again and ended up there by accident. On the other hand, Aston was completely shocked and can't believe that even the vice captain of the Royal Knights knows Zenus. Seeing all this, he puts all the blame on his teammate and runs away. Next, we see the three gang leaders, Zofia, Linga, and Loie gathered at Zenus' house. They were talking about Aston. All three say they were suspicious of him, which is why they had some men follow him. They suspect he might be trying to hire underground shadow guilds for some illegal activity. Hearing this, Zenus says, that's difficult, because hiring underground guilds requires a lot of money, and judging by Aston's current condition, that doesn't seem likely. But Zofia mentions a man who can get such things done even without money. The scene shifts again. Everyone has left, and Lily was worried about Zenus, so she comes to check on him. But while trying to get Zenus to sleep, Lily ends up falling asleep herself. Zenus tucks her in and then talks to Carmilla. He tells her he was thinking about the past. Hearing this, Carmilla asks how he learned healing magic. Zenus explains that once, he tried to bring a dead body back to life, but the result was terrifying. Hearing this, Carmilla becomes very serious and says, that's forbidden sorcery. Zenus says he didn't know that at the time, he was just following his teacher's orders. Carmilla says that 300 years ago, when she was alive, people used that kind of magic to create golems, which were heavily used in the Demon Lord's army. But that was a long time ago, and golems no longer exist. The last one she saw was 300 years ago when she was still alive. As they both get ready to sleep, a massive explosion suddenly occurs. Hearing the blast, Carmilla flies up to investigate. When she reaches the site, she was shocked by what she saw, because the very golem they had just been talking about was now rampaging through the slums. We are then shown a flashback where we see an underground tunnel, and two mysterious men are talking to each other. One says, so, you've come here because you can't afford the Shadow Guild's fees. I know that very well, but no worries, money isn't important to me. You can call me the guide, and the matter is pretty simple. You want to hire someone to take revenge, and not just on one person, but on his companions as well. But can you tell me why you want revenge? The reason matters a lot. Although for the members of the Shadow Guild, it doesn't matter as long as they're getting paid. For me, both the reason and the motive matter. If you don't want to tell me the reason, forget it, this deal is cancelled. The other man then explains the reason for his revenge. Hearing this, the first man starts laughing and says, that's not a real reason. It seems like you just want to release the anger you've been holding in your heart. Tell me your name, and I'll do the job for you without any payment. The scene shifts back to the present, where a giant golem was rampaging through the slums. Finally, Zenus arrives and says, so, this is the monster called a golem? Just then, Carmilla also arrives, and we find out that Lily is still asleep. Soon, the other three girls arrive, and Linga informs them that many of her followers are badly injured and can't heal. The same is true for orcs. Zenus begins to wonder who this monster is and where it came from. Maybe it's some kind of old artificial creature. Then Carmilla says that this is part of forbidden sorcery used during the Demon Lord's time. Loie adds that her men saw the golem coming from deep within the underground slums. After hearing this, Zenus thinks that maybe this monster is connected to the Shadow Guild, but there's no time to think about it right now. He tells Loie and Linga to gather all injured in one place, and then the scene changes. We see the mysterious man standing on a cliff far away, saying, this monster has great destructive power, but its mobility is quite low. Now, it'll be interesting to see how Zenus feels when his friends start dying one by one. On the other side, the situation was getting worse. Many people are injured, but Zenus manages to gather everyone in one go and heal them completely. At the same time, Zenus was getting very angry at the person who is behind all of this. We then see the mysterious man on the hill, watching Zenus heal everyone with binoculars. He was shocked and says, so, Zenus, you managed to save all the injured, but what about the monster? Now, what will you do? I'm really excited to see this. Meanwhile, Zenus asks his group if there were any casualties, and when he finds out that no one has died, he says, thank goodness no one died. Then Carmilla says, how did someone get a magic stone of such high purity? These stones can only be found in the far south, where the Demon Lord's castle used to be. Zenus replies, there's no point in thinking about all this. I'm going to destroy this monster myself. But then the other three girls step in front of him and say, we're with you. We won't let you go alone. Carmilla tells them that the core of the monster is its heart, and the magic stone inside it must be destroyed. Otherwise, the monster will regenerate over and over again. After this, Zenus, along with Zofia, Loie, and Linga, starts the battle. Zenus uses his magic to significantly increase the agility of all three girls. As soon as Zenith's magic takes effect, their speed increases dramatically, and immediately after, all three attack the monster. However, the monster regenerates right away. After this, Zenith also gives them strength and speed to help them deal more damage. As the battle progresses, Zenith starts to get excited and says, "It's been a long time since I've participated in a real battle." He adds, "I need to maintain a specific distance, otherwise, my magic won't work at full potential." Zenith then combines agility, strength, and speed magic all at once and says, no matter how similar the techniques are, their activation is different and quite complicated. Even I can't use all three together for long. Meanwhile, the three girls continue attacking the golem, dealing massive damage, but it keeps regenerating. Watching the battle closely, Zenith realizes what he needs to do and notices that the golem needs some time to regenerate. He then orders Sophia and Linga to break both of the golem's legs. They attack the golem's legs simultaneously, causing it to fall to its knees. Just then, Loie sees a little girl hiding in a house that is directly in the path of the golem's fall. Zenith, seeing the girl, gets anxious and starts casting a defensive spell, but it's too late. To everyone's surprise, the golem manages to save the girl by covering her with its hands before falling. Meanwhile, the mysterious man was still watching the entire battle from the top of the mountain. He says, "It seems like Zenith might win round 2 as well." Carmilla walks up to Zenith and says, "Golems react only to basic orders. How did it save this little girl? I don't understand." But Zenith is starting to understand things. He says, "I fully scanned this golem. The magic stone is located on the left side of its chest, in its heart." Zenith also senses that Aston is inside the golem. The scene changes, and the mysterious man says, "Zenith, it seems you understand now who's inside this golem. I found an incomplete magic stone, and to activate it completely, I needed a human. But human emotions and complicated feelings are not suitable for a golem. I needed a person who was completely filled with negativity and revenge, and that's when I found Aston. I fused Aston with the incomplete magic stone and created this golem. Now Aston and the stone have merged, and to separate them, you'll have to kill Aston. So, can you kill the person who made you an adventurer and brought you out of the slums?" The scene shifts again, and Zenith tells his companions, "Stay away from me and this golem." But the three girls refuse, saying, "If we leave, this golem will keep regenerating again and again." However, Zenith insists that they leave because it is the smartest choice. He decides that he will fight on the front line but remembers his master's words, who always said that healers should never fight on the front line, as they won't be able to heal their teammates effectively while in battle, and that's why he asked everyone else to leave. After this, Sophia, Linga, and Loie leave with Carmilla. Carmilla says, "I'm not really a big fan of the sun, and morning is coming, so I'm going too." She tells Zenith, "I'll wait for you with a cup of tea." Now, only Zenith and Aston are left on the battlefield. Zenith asks, "Why did someone like you, a selfish person, save a little girl?" This question reminds Zenith of something an old teammate once said about Aston, who was obsessed with money and power because his little sister died due to a lack of medicine. Perhaps the little girl Aston just saved reminded him of his sister. Zenith knew that Aston's anger was still alive because now Zenith had found a new place where he felt he belonged. After this, the golem becomes even angrier and starts attacking Zenith, but Zenith was easily dodging the golem's attacks. Zenith then delivers a strike, causing the golem to fall to the ground. We then see Aston lying in front of Zenith, but the magic stone was still in his chest. Zenith says, "This is the last day I will see your face." Zenith then creates a sword with his magic and strikes Aston's chest. Meanwhile, the mysterious man, who has been watching the battle, says, "I didn't think Zenith would kill someone so easily." He then continues, "Zenith, it seems you've been through a lot." Along with the mysterious man, we also thought that Zenith had killed Aston and that this is the end for Aston. But suddenly, the golem shakes again. We see Zenith repeatedly striking Aston with his sword. Zenith says, "You can't die so easily. Whatever destruction you've caused, you'll have to make up for it. I don't think I'll get paid for healing you, but still, I can't kill you." On the other hand, the mysterious man was shocked. He wonders how Zenith is attacking Aston and healing him at the same time. He then realizes that Zenith is separating the body parts of Aston that had fused with the magic stone. But Zenith is doing this with such accuracy that if he makes even a slight mistake or delays healing a damaged body part, Aston will die instantly. Doing all this together is impossible, especially after such a long battle. On the other side, we see Zenith saying, "To be honest, Aston, there's no place for you in this world, and there's no benefit to keeping you alive. But who will pay for all the destruction you've caused? You don't even have money, but the contractors who hired you will have to pay for all this destruction. The two reasons I'm keeping you alive are, First, because you brought me out of the slums and gave me a severance payment, a gold coin, which I used to save Lily. That started my new life. The second and most important reason is that I'm a healer. Aston becomes emotional upon hearing this and starts to cry. Finally, Zenas completely breaks the magic crystal. Aston thinks, I've lost everything. Now you want me to live? Is this your revenge? When I was inside the golem, I saw how you supported those demi-humans in backup. Did you always supported us like that? I spent my whole life taking advantage of others, but in the end, someone else used me. I know nothing I say will matter to you, but I still want to say something. Zenas then turns around and sees Aston completely kneeling with his head bowed. Aston says to Zenas, I'm sorry. After this, Zenas responds, now that you're conscious and completely healed, I have to give you something. He extends his hand and boosts his ability, increasing his arm strength by 10 times. Zenas then delivers a powerful punch to Aston's face, causing the remaining torn clothes to fall off, and Aston is sent flying, landing completely naked. Later, we see Krishna standing near Aston. She says, I got a report about a monster attack. On my way here, Zenas met me and told me everything. It's a miracle that after such massive destruction, you didn't die. You should be grateful to Zenas for saving your life. Krishna then points a gun at Aston and says, I'm arresting you for attempted assault, fleeing justice, giving false testimony, indirect revenge, causing destruction, and public indecency, as you're sitting here without clothes. Aston then realizes that his clothes have completely torn, and he starts trying to preserve his dignity. Krishna then tells Aston, Zenas left a message for you. I took your sword while you were unconscious because it was found in the deep floors of a dungeon. It's a very valuable sword, and by selling this treasure, we'll be able to compensate for all the destruction. Since I found this sword, it's time for me to take it back. Aston opens his fist and sees a gold coin, which was his severance bonus. Aston, completely emotional, says quietly, I have nothing left, and begins crying loudly. As soon as Zenas arrives at his clinic, Carmilla was waiting for him with tea. Lily, who has woken up, also comes and says she made the tea. Lily says, I knew you would come back and without any damage. Lily also mentions that Carmilla was really worried about him and was so anxious that she was flying around the house. Hearing this, Carmilla gets very embarrassed and tells Lily to keep quiet. The scene cuts, and we see the mysterious man, who says, I think it's time for me to go back underground for a while, but I'm sure we'll meet again, Zenas. And this is where part 1 ends. So, guys, if you like this video, make sure to like it, comment, and tell me what you thought of the episode. This is a story of an overpowered underground healer who got kicked out of his party as they thought that he was useless, but then he opened an unlicensed clinic. If you haven't watched part 1, the link is in the description. Now let's begin part 2. We see Zenas relaxing happily in a hot spring because the last few days had been very difficult for him, and it had been a long time since he had relaxed like this. But suddenly, the gate opens, and the scene cuts to the past, where Krishna was saying that even after the investigation, they have not received any information about who the mastermind behind Gom's attack was. However, they have found out that the person calls himself the Guide. Zenas says that he will remember the name Guide because someday they will definitely encounter each other. Since that person left no trace, finding him was nearly impossible. Moreover, he had abandoned the location he had established as his base. Even the demi-humans continued their investigation but found no information because most people in underground guilds do not check each other's backgrounds. Even the Royal Knights were searching for that person, but they could not find any trace. Then a fight starts between demi-humans and Krishna because Krishna says she will solve the mission using her experience. After hearing their nonsense, Zenas pushes them away and says, Today is my day off, so don't bother me. After pushing them out, Lily suddenly goes to Zenas and says she has an idea because he had been very troubled for many days. She was about to explain her idea that both of them should go alone to a hot spring, but before she could finish, Sophia enters, surprising both of them. Sophia then suggests that they should go to a hot spring. Hearing this, Lily gets frustrated because her whole plan has been ruined. To convince Zenas, Sophia starts explaining the benefits of the hot spring, and in the end, Zenas agrees, which makes Sophia happy. As Sophia leaves, Linga arrives and guess what? Linga also says that they should go to the hot spring. After Linga leaves, Loie comes in with the same idea. Hearing all this, Zenas' mind gets messed up, and on the other side, Lily starts crying. After Loie leaves, Krishna too comes in, and guess what happens next? After hearing all this, Zenas gets worried and asks Lily what she wanted to say, but Lily becomes very angry. Then Carmelia arrives, who was enjoying watching people struggle with love, and she tells them that she is also going to the hot spring with them. Then the scene cuts back to the present time, where Sophia appears before Zenas, surprising him. Sophia was very carefree and begins to say how she never even dreamed that she would live together with the wolfsmen and ogres, and she credits Zenas for all this. While saying this, she gets very close to Zenas, which made Zenas really uncomfortable. Suddenly, Sophia becomes more romantic toward Zenas, but Zenas tells her to stop this nonsense. Then Linga enters. She starts fighting with Sophia and acts as if she is fainting. Suddenly, she jumps on Zenas, but Sophia catches her midair, and they start fighting as Sophia couldn't let her succeed in her ulterior motives. At that moment, Loie, who was not wearing anything, also enters the scene, and then all three begin to fight for Zenas. Meanwhile, Zenas, seeing all this, was getting very irritated. Then last but not the least, Krishna also enters and shouts at the three, but they point out to her, asking what she was doing in the men's bathroom. Hearing this, Krishna gets scared and tries to make excuses, saying that she came there by mistake. After that, all four start fighting, and seeing them fight, Zenas' mind was completely messed up. On the other side, we see the same healer named Yuman, who was the substitute healer in Aston's party. She had also come here to relax. But then she notices that the four girls entering the bath, and seeing a human with demi-humans together surprises her a lot. Then she notices an elf beside her, who was Lily, and she thinks how cute she is. Meanwhile, Lily has her own problem. Her body was not as developed as other girls, but when she sees Yuman beside her, she feels a bit happy seeing someone like her. On the other hand, Yuman didn't understand what exactly was happening. At that moment, Carmelia enters and starts encouraging Lily, telling her not to worry because she was still very young. She explains that many people in the world prefer different body types. Hearing this, Lily gains some confidence. But then Yuman sees Carmelia, a wraith, and she was shocked. She immediately uses her healing magic to try to get rid of her. However, Carmelia quickly runs away. Yuman was confused because she has seen many strange things in just one day. Then we see it's dinner time, and everyone was happily toasting. Zenas asks Krishna that she can also eat with them, but Krishna says she took a day off to relax and feels stuck with them here. We then see Lily sleeping, and on the other side, Zenas was about to share a drink with Carmelia. Zenas explains that they all had a drinking competition, and the winner could sleep in his lap, but everyone has already fallen asleep. Zenas asks Carmelia how she came here since she can't stay long under the sun. Carmelia explains she hid inside a staff, and Lily carried her here. Zenas then asks what she was doing when she was alive, to which Camellia replies she doesn't remember as it was too long ago. The scene shifts to the next morning, where a big blast happens in the kitchen. Yuman rushes there worriedly and finds out that the magic stone used to power oven exploded, causing severe burns to the cook. Despite her best efforts, Yuman could not heal him properly and says that he might never be able to hold a knife again. Hearing the blast, Zenas arrives. Yuman asks Zenas for help to carry the injured man to the royal hospital, but Zenas says there's no need to worry about such a small injury and leaves after healing him. Meanwhile, Yuman can't understand how someone can leave an injured person like this. But when the cook stands up, Yuman was shocked because she didn't expect her healing ability to be so powerful that it could heal completely. Such healing can only be done by a saint or an elite class healer. The scene shifts to a healing school where Yuman goes to meet her teacher and explains the whole situation. The teacher was surprised and says there are only 10 elite healers in the entire country, all working for the government. Yuman says she couldn't talk to the man because he left quickly after healing the cook. The teacher asks about his appearance, and Yuman says she heard a girl calling him Zenas. The teacher says they won't get any help from him, but since that man helped an innocent person, they guess he must be a good person. So for now, they can ignore him, but if Yuman meets him again, they will need to gather more information. But then again, when Yuman mentions that the man wore a black overcoat, the teacher changes his mind and says they must find him. Yuman was doubtful whether they would be able to find that person or not, but her teacher said he had a pretty good idea where they could find that man. Then he laughed in a strange way. The scene cuts, and we see that Sophia's brother had brought a man to Zenas because the man was vomiting blood and suddenly fainted. Seeing this, Zenas tells him to stay conscious. When Zenas scans the man, he finds out that he has red lungs disease. Zenas immediately tells Lily to stay away because this disease had caused a pandemic earlier, killing many people. However, as far as he knew, a cure had been found and everyone had recovered. At that moment, that man speaks up, complimenting Zenas on his excellent diagnosis. Then he introduces himself as Becker, an elite healer from the Royal Hospital, which surprises everyone. Becker explains that this case is a bit unique because, despite being an elite healer, his healing magic isn't very effective. Zenas asks if he really has red lungs disease, but before Becker can answer, Yumin enters and exposes everything about her teacher. She warns that if he continues behaving this way, his condition could worsen. At that moment, the man starts coughing blood again. So he takes an antidote and explains that his illness is somewhat similar to red lungs, which is why people avoided him, but the slum folks have helped him. And as he had the antidote, he is not going to die. Zenas asks where he got the medicine from. The man says that he made it himself. Then Yumin praises her teacher for creating many medicines and says he is the same man who found a cure for red lungs. Even though he doesn't have healing magic, his medicines earned him a special rank. Becker says that when he heard about an elite-ranked healer in the black overcoat, he thought he was someone he knew but realizes he was probably wrong. Then he asks if that coat belongs to Zenas, who replies that it was his teacher's. Zenas didn't even know much about his teacher. After hearing this, Becker asks if Zenas would like to join them. Yumin was very surprised by this, but Becker explained that there are some problems at the Royal Hospital right now and asks if Zenas could help them. Then the demi-human girls trio enters and says that they won't let that man take Zenas so easily. They say they have surrounded the whole area, and since they can't fight inside Zenas' home, they will beat the man once he steps outside. They explain that they were tipped off by a red flag that Carmelia raised. Becker says it looks like he needs to change his approach and then asks Zenas if he would officially work for them as a commissioned agent. Zenas had no problem with that, which surprises everyone, but he says that if they want to survive here, they have to work with others. He also mentions how this doctor had distributed free medicine in the slums many times, so they have no problem with him. Then a deal was made where Zenas will come to the Royal Hospital and get all the details about his work. Then in the next scene, we see Zenas finally arriving at the Royal Medical Institute. Along with Zenas, Yumin and Becker were also there. Zenas was quite amazed to see such a large institute and says, "I prefer a little shady and dark places, but here everything is very bright." Then Becker tells Zenas, "Let me first show you my study office." The three of them then reach Becker's office, and Zenas says, "This place is perfect." Hearing this, Becker jokes a little, "I don't think my study is shady enough for you to like it." Then Becker gets serious and says, "You must know why I called you here." Zenas replies, "Yes, to investigate the missing people, but you should know I am not good at tracking people." Becker says, "Don't worry about that. This work will be quite easy for you." After that, Zenas jokes, "So you brought me here on your responsibility, and if I mess up, you'll be in trouble too." Becker tells Zenas that being an elite comes with their own perks and tell him that here your name will be Zeno and you will be shifted here as a foreign research student. Then Yumin takes Zenas to his living quarters, and Zenas was surprised because Lily was already there. Yumin tells Zenas that in the institute, you can keep family members or close relatives with you. Then Lily confidently says, "So, I've come here as your wife." Yumin stops Lily and says, "Not wife, you are here as his little sister." Hearing this, Zenas feels a little awkward but also relieved because he was worried about how Lily would live alone in the slums. After that, Yumin leaves, and Lily calls Zenas honey from behind. Hearing this, Zenas felt weird and gross. Lily then asks, "So Zenas, what will you do? Take a bath first, or want breakfast? Or if you want, you can even have me." Hearing this, Zenas shouts loudly, "Are you crazy? And who taught you all this?" At that moment, Carmelia enters and says, "And who else would have taught her? I am training Lily." As soon as Zenas sees Carmelia, he says, "What else could I expect from you?" Zenas continues, "Carmilla, if anyone finds out about you here, they will use healing magic to exorcise you." But Carmilla laughs and quietly says, "If anyone can kill me, it's only you, because you are the only one who can use that monster-level magic." Zenas doesn't catch Carmilla's whole sentence and says, "Did you say something?" Carmilla laughs and says, "Nothing." Then the scene shifts to the school canteen where Zenas and Yumin were sitting together. Zenas asks Yumin, "How can I get a healing license?" Yumin tells him it's a tough process, but once you get the license, whether you work in a hospital, join the army, or an adventure group, your value is very high. Zenas then says, "Forget that, tell me about the healers who have been disappearing." Yumin says one of them was named Alfred. He was a brilliant student and her upperclassman. He also helped Becker a lot in making the cure for red lung disease. Hearing this, Zenas says, "So this guy seems quite important. We definitely need to find him." They were talking when suddenly a senior healer enters the canteen followed by many students. Yumin says, "This is our school's vice director, Professor Goldrin." Then Yumin explains that since he became vice director, there have been many changes in the school, and he's also competing to become the director because the current director is quite old. Due to this, many responsibilities have fallen on the vice director. Since these changes, wealthy people have been getting more benefits at the institute. Yumin says, "I think the vice director might be involved in Alfred's disappearance." Hearing this, Zenas asks, "So what should we do now?" Yumin replies, Don't worry, you are a very capable healer. Their eyes will naturally fall on you. At that moment, a boy named Carson arrives and immediately asks Yumin, "What are you all doing here?" Ignoring him, Yumin replies, "I can have my lunch wherever I want." Then Carson looks at Zenas and while leaving he says, "So you're the special student. Don't cause too much trouble here, or your sponsor's name will get tarnished." Zenas gets confused and asks, "Who was that guy?" Yumin tells him, "He's our classmate and he recently joined Goldrin's group, and since then, he's been acting all high and mighty." Then the scene goes into a flashback where we see a much younger Zenas trying to heal a dead body lying nearby. Suddenly, a man wearing Zenas' black jacket appears and scolds him, "You should use this magic on living people, not dead bodies." After some time, we see a scene where Zenas is inside a house with another boy, and both are learning healing magic from that same man. The scene returns to the present where Zenas was sitting in his class, being taught about undead monsters. A student asks the teacher about wraiths, and upon hearing the name, the teacher says, "If one ever appears in front of you, run away immediately." Zenas thinks to himself, "And Carmelia is sitting in my room relaxing." Then Carson stands up in the class and says, "I have been adventuring for a few years, and I have killed more than 30 ghosts." Everyone praises him, and Carson looks at Zenas and says, "And you, special student, what have you done so far?" Zenas thinks quietly, "I can't brag in public, so I should downplay my abilities, saying 50 is okay." But then he stands and says, "I have also killed almost 30 ghosts." Hearing this, Carson mocks him, "Are you throwing around such big numbers?" Zenas casually replies, "Yes, I'm telling the truth. Killing 30 at once is very difficult anyway." Carson was shocked internally, thinking, "I killed ghosts one by one, but he says he killed 30 at once." Meanwhile, Zenas wanted to keep a low profile, but things had already escalated. After this, we see another class where Zenas was studying about healing magic circles. When the teacher was teaching how to create a healing magic circle, Zenas thinks, "By the time I make the circle, I could have healed 10 patients using my magic." Then the teacher asks, "Does anyone want to make their own magic circle?" Carson immediately steps forward and creates his best magic circle. The teacher was impressed and asks, "Would you like to join my lab?" But Carson, still acting all high and mighty, says, "Sorry, Professor, but I already joined Professor Goldrin's lab." Then Carson immediately looks at Zenas and says, "So what kind of magic circle do you use?" Zenas steps forward and creates a magic circle that his master taught him many years ago. As soon as the magic circle is completed, Carson starts mocking him because he can't understand it at all. But when the teacher notices it, he was completely stunned because he had never seen such an advanced magic circle before. The teacher says, "This is a very powerful magic circle. With this, we can regenerate anyone's body. But activating such a magic circle requires a lot of mana." Hearing this, Zenas says, "That's not true. I can activate this magic circle very easily," and immediately activates the magic circle with one hand. Seeing this, the teacher was amazed and insists that Zenas join his lab. The scene shifts to Professor Goldrin's office where he was sitting in his office when his secretary comes and says, "Sir, a new student has arrived at our school who is quite unique. I heard he can kill 30 ghosts at once." Professor Goldrin angrily replies, "What have you been thinking of your group? Can anyone just join like that?" Then another guy comes in and says, "Sir, recently we found out about a large number of undead monsters appearing in the graveyard." Hearing this, Goldrin says, "This is a perfect chance to test that new student." After that, they decide to send Zenas there, along with Carson to keep an eye on him. The scene changes to the graveyard where all the students have come with Zenas. One by one, the students start killing ghosts. But Zenas was standing on the side with Yumin and says, "How long will this go on? These guys will just keep killing ghosts one by one." Then a large number of undead monsters start gathering there, and all the students were completely exhausted. Carson was literally drenched in sweat. But then Zenas uses a high-level healing skill and defeats all the monsters at once, saying to his classmates that because of you all, they gathered together, so defeating them became very easy. Seeing this, Yumin was completely shocked. But then Carson takes all the credit and says, "You all saw, right? I killed all these ghosts. Now go tell everyone about it." The other students also believed him and start leaving. Then Zenas says, "Wait, there's still one ghost left here." As Carson looks back, the ground starts shaking and a terrifying zombie king emerges from underground. His presence was so terrifying that everyone starts sweating. Everyone immediately looks at Carson and says, "You are our last hope. You're the only one who can save us." But Carson was completely panicked. Yumin jokes, "Carson, you're our hero. Go save us." Zenas, in a slightly sarcastic tone, says, "Yeah, you can easily handle this one." They both push Carson forward. Carson looks back at his classmates and says, "Guys, go ahead. I'll handle this here and quickly send backup." Then we see Carson attacking the zombie king while crying, but his attack only causes a small scratch which immediately heals. After that, the Zombie King picks up Crescent and like a football, he throws him around. Just as the Zombie King was about to kill Carson, Zenus steps forward and uses a powerful mega healing magic skill, completely destroying the Zombie King. As the Zombie King was destroyed, Zenus remembers that all undead monsters are attracted to undead monsters more powerful than themselves. He also remembers someone who was sitting in his room. In the next scene, we see Carmelia sneezes loudly. Seeing this, Lily tells her, "Maybe you've caught a cold." But hearing this, Carmilla says, "You have a pretty good sense of humor. The greatest among the dead will catch a cold," and laughs. Then she says, "Maybe someone is missing me." Then we see Zenus arrive there, and the three of them have dinner together. During dinner, Zenus tells Carmelia that all the nearby undead monsters are attracted to her because she is very strong. Hearing this, Carmelia laughs and says, "So, are you going to throw me out now?" Zenus clearly refuses and says, "Considering how you affect your surroundings, it's safer to keep you with me." Hearing this, Lily feels a little shy and starts talking to herself. She says, "I also wish Zenus would say that to me." Acting as Zenus, she says, "Lily, always stay with me because you're the only one capable of becoming my ideal wife." Thinking this, Lily feels happy within herself. But Carmelia also feels a little shy hearing this and starts to leave, saying, "You tell the monster that everyone runs away from to stay with you. You really are something different." Next, we see a scene at the Royal Hospital, where Professor Goldrin's second secretary was managing the graveyard incident. He appreciates Carson for handling the situation so easily and says that the new research assistant turned out to be useless. Hearing this, Carson feels a bit guilty because Zenus saved his life at the graveyard, so he tells the secretary everything honestly, that Zenus exterminated all the undead monsters at the graveyard. As he leaves, frustrated, Carson says, "Zenus, now we're even." Next, we see Becker's office, where Becker tells Zenus that he has received an invitation from Goldrin's lab. He says, "I'm quite impressed with you. It seems your extermination of the undead monsters caught their attention." Zenus says, "Our mission will be completed soon." But Becker tells him, "Not yet. You still have to give an interview to join Goldrin's faction because Goldrin is very smart and doesn't add anyone to his group without inspection. Also, he is politically very powerful." Hearing this, Zenus feels overwhelmed and says, "This complicated task is beyond me." Zenus asks, "Goldrin is an advanced healer, but you are an elite healer. Shouldn't you be more influential?" Becker explains, "He became an elite healer because he invented his drugs. Political powers and titles have a completely different value." Zenus says, "For now, I should go to the lab and meet them." In the next scene, we see Goldrin and his secretary interviewing Zenus. Goldrin says, "So you are the new research student. Tell me, what can you do?" Zenus says, "All I can do is only healing." Goldrin doesn't like this answer and says, "Any healer can heal. If you have powers, you should play at a higher level." Then he asks Zenus to draw the same magic circle he made in class. Goldrin further explains that in this kingdom's history, healers have been very important, and the ruling class gets to use all the benefits. He plans to join them soon, which will benefit his faction as well. Goldrin adds, "Every life has a different value, and that's why valuable and rich people get special care." Meanwhile, Zenus draws the magic circle and gives it to Goldrin. Goldrin wanted to check the depth of Zenus' education through this magic circle to see if Zenus has learned healing legally, as many who learn unofficial healing don't know the basics well. When Goldrin inspects the magic circle, he was a little surprised because he has never seen such a circle before with regeneration spells and notices that the basic healing principles are perfectly applied in it. Then Goldrin gets up and says, "You can join the lab from tomorrow." The next day, we see Goldrin going to see patients with his entire faction, and Zenus joins him midway. Zenus and Carson are both at the very end of the line, meaning they have the lowest rank in the faction. Carson tells Zenus that it was his recommendation that helped him join the faction, and he also says he will use Zenus to rise further in the faction. Hearing this, Zenus says, "Aren't you being a bit too honest?" Then Zenus sees Goldrin healing a patient with a sprained ankle. Zenus notices that Goldrin's healing method was very different. He was using the life energy of 3 other healers to heal the patient. Carson explains that this is Goldrin's unique skill called Health Transfer Magic, which allows him to use others' life force to heal any injury. The more serious the injury, the more life energy is required. Zenus says, "So that's why Goldrin keeps so many people with him." Carson says this is also one reason, but the main reason is that the professor wants to show his strength because the current director is about to retire soon, so it's almost certain that Professor Goldrin will be the new director. After this, Zenus asks Carson about Alfred, and hearing the name, Carson gets a little surprised and says, "That guy suddenly disappeared, even though the professor had very high hopes from him. I don't know much, but he has been missing since the dinner party." Zenas asks, "What kind of dinner party?" Carson explains that the professor gives dinner parties to some of his favorite students every few days. In the next scene, we see Zenas at Becker's place, where Becker says, "You will have to become one of Professor Goldran's favorite students so that we can get more information and evidence." Hearing this, Zenas makes a face as if he's been given a very difficult task. Becker says he will pay extra for this job, and hearing this, Zenas agrees. Zenas says, "Well, however this mission goes, I want you to tell me everything you know about my teacher afterward." To which Becker agrees. Then Becker gets up and some coins fall to the ground. Some gold, some silver, and the rest bronze. Becker says, "Zenas, you're looking at the coins that fell. I have to pick them up, but I don't have much time because of meetings and classes. If you were in my place, which coin would you pick up first?" Zenas thinks for a moment. Then Becker asks, "What do you think? Do you think all lives have equal value?" At that moment, Umi arrives and takes Becker away for a meeting. Back in the ruins, we see Linga unlock Zenas' house door and enter, saying she will now sleep in Zenas' bed and sniff it to her heart's content. Then she finds Sophia there, who had also come for the same purpose. Both are shocked to see each other. Then Loie also breaks the door and comes in. The three start making excuses that they came here for cleaning. After a while, we see all three cleaning, and Loie repairs the door too. The scene shifts back to the Royal Hospital, where we see Carson walking Professor Goldran's dog. He tells Zenas that his duty in the lab is to walk Madame Milky, feed her, and play with her. Hearing this, Zenas was shocked and says, "Is that all the work you got in the lab?" Carson explains that the professor is busy in a meeting with 7 major nobles right now. While he was telling this, a drunk man arrives holding a bottle. Carson tells Zenas that this is the professor's first secretary. Although he doesn't do much work, he remains the secretary because he's an old friend of the professor. Zenas was also shocked watching the man's behavior. Then that man throws his bottle towards Carson, due to which Carson accidentally drops the dog leash, and Madame Milky runs out onto the streets, where she gets hit by a cart. Carson immediately runs, trying to use healing magic, although his magic stopped the bleeding but the injury mark remains. Seeing this, Zenas says, "If the bleeding has stopped, she will be fine." Carson says, "You don't understand, Professor loves Madame Milky very much. Seeing this injury, he will kick me out." Hearing this, Zenas steps forward and tries to heal her, but Carson says, "Maybe you've defeated the Zombie King because of your raw and immense mana power, but skin regeneration is a very sophisticated healing and beyond your ability." However, by the time Carson finishes speaking, Zenas had completely healed Madame Milky. Zenas says, "I even fixed her ribs, and now she can walk, but she should rest today." Seeing and hearing all this, Carson was shocked and says, "You're talking like an elite healer." Next, we see an evening scene where Yuman asks Zenas to go for a walk. After some time walking, Yuman apologizes to Zenas, saying that if she were talented and not, he wouldn't have to get involved in all these troubles. She says her apology might not mean much, but she still wants Zenas to forgive her. Zenas says, "There's no need for that because I'm getting paid for this work. If I didn't get this opportunity, I wouldn't have come to the Royal Hospital or learned anything about my teacher." Yuman asks Zenas about his teacher. Zenas says he doesn't know much but that his life improved because of his teacher. Hearing this, Yuman says her entire life also improved because of Professor Becker, and after all, since his girlfriend left him, she has been taking care of him because he is her uncle. She adds that she's useless anyway and his research is very boring. Zenas asks about her research. Umi says that her research is about storing medicines, how, at what temperature, and where it should be stored. Hearing this, Zenas says, "Important things in life are often boring," and Yuman laughs. Then Carmelia says from behind, "Zenas, another girl has joined your lover's list, and I give her 1 point out of 10. Zenas says, "Carmelia, you should stop rating people." After this, we see Zenas and Umi returning from their walk at dusk, but then Carson arrives and kneels before Zenas asking for help, and part 2 ends here. So if you guys enjoyed this video and want the last part, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. In the next scene we see Professor Goldran, who seemed to be quite disturbed. Previously, we saw that he had gone to a meeting with Lord Fennel, one of the 7 major noble families. Ever since he returned from that meeting, he was visibly troubled. His assistant asks him if something went wrong during the meeting, but as soon as he hears this, the professor gets a bit irritated and responds, "Do you think I would mess up a meeting with Lord Fennel?" Then we get a flashback of the meeting where Lord Fennel told the professor about a rash on his daughter's face. Initially, it seemed like a normal rash, but it had started spreading. The professor tells him that these are symptoms of the odd face disease. Lord Fennel insists that there must be a treatment for it and that he had to find a cure. the scene shifts back to the present. Professor Goldrand starts thinking, although it might not be life-threatening, the way the rash is spreading fast, it means the roots of the disease have gone quite deep. To treat it, it would need to be surgically removed, which would most likely leave a permanent scar on the girl's face. He looks at his hands and thinks, if I had enough people and life energy, I could regenerate even the skin and remove the scars completely. But Lord Fennel had said that his daughter won't allow too many people to see her face, which means he could only bring at most 2 assistants. Overwhelmed with stress, Professor heads out to visit Miss Milky to ease his mind by playing with her. But as soon as he steps out of his office, his assistant Mr. Bones stops him and says, I heard your Milky got under a cart. Hearing that, Professor Goldrand goes into a rage and grabs his assistant by the collar. He yells, did you do this? If you did, it's time I show you your place. But the assistant replies, why are you so angry? That dog-walking kid healed Milky completely. The professor releases him and rushes to Miss Milky. On the way, he contacts another assistant to confirm what really happened. And even there he learns that Crescent completely healed Milky. Professor checks Milky himself and finds that not even a single scar remains on her body. Milky happily runs to him, and he starts petting her. After this, we move to Zenith's quarters, where Zenith, Human, and Crescent were present. Crescent tells Zenith that he's been asked to heal a major noble's daughter. He adds, you've heard of Odd Face, right? She's got that. Zenith says, that's a common disease. If the growth has stopped, she can continue a normal life. Crescent replies, I know that too, but the girl refuses to go anywhere with this scar on her face. To this, Zenith says, then in that case, you'll have to operate and remove the scar. Crescent says, yeah, that's one way, but the roots have grown too deep. Surgery will definitely leave scars. And even the books say that rather than surgery, it's better to leave this disease alone. Then Crescent starts crying. Human asks, why did they even give you this kind of responsibility? Crescent, getting a bit hyped again, says, maybe the professor is finally recognizing my talent, that's why he gave me this job. Human gives him a long look, and Crescent admits, oh, fine, I was lying. Crescent continues by saying that the professor had already found out about Milky's accident, and he asked Crescent directly who healed her. That's when Human comments, so I guess you stole Zenith's credit again just like with the zombie incident. Crescent quickly defends himself, no, I told the professor's secretary full truth about the Zombie King incident. But if I had told them the truth about Milky too, they would have thought I was useless and kicked me out of the faction. Then he turns to Zenith and says, please, big brother, I really need your help. Zenith replies, I'm not your big brother. And just then, Lily walks in with some tea. Crescent sees her and Human says, this is Zenith's younger sister. Crescent smiles and says, she's so cute. If you're big bro's sister, then that makes you my sister too. But Lily just frowns and says, I don't need a brother like you. In the next scene, we see Professor Goldrand, Zenith, and Crescent at Lord Fennel's palace. They were suddenly summoned there. As soon as Lord Fennel enters, the professor asks why they were called so urgently. Lord Fennel explains that the situation has become more complicated. His daughter, Charlotte, has refused to undergo surgery because she doesn't want even a single scar on her face. That's why she's completely unwilling to go ahead with the operation. He adds, Professor, I trust you. You can surely perform the surgery without leaving a scar. But now, it's up to you to convince her and bring her out of that room. They all head to Charlotte's room. Lord Fennel knocks and says, Charlotte, the professor is here. You should let him treat you. Trust me, have I ever lied to you? Charlotte gets up from her bed and she's actually really beautiful. But she yells, Dad, you still haven't fulfilled your birthday promise of giving me scarf made from a firefox pelt. And now you want to force me into surgery? Hearing this, Lord Fennel was left speechless, and we realize that this was related to the mission that Aston had failed. Moving on, the professor says to Charlotte, Miss, I'm from the Royal Hospital. Please trust me and let me treat you. But Charlotte immediately refuses. Professor Goldrand warns her, this disease won't heal without surgery. Charlotte replies sharply, I don't care, I'm not letting a blade touch my face under any condition. Meanwhile, Crescent quietly says to Zenith, forget promotions, I've got a better idea. If I can impress this girl and marry her, I'll instantly become part of the nobility. Dreaming about his fantasy future, Crescent steps forward and says to the professor, let me try. He then calls out to Charlotte. Charlotte asks, who are you? Crescent says, I'm the professor's assistant. Hearing this, Charlotte freaks out even more and yells, why is an assistant talking to me? Your voice is nothing but noise pollution. Crescent's beautiful daydreams shatter instantly, and he quietly says, sorry, and walks back. Professor then signals Zenith to give it a try. As Zenith walks up to the door, he asks gently, can you hear me? Charlotte snaps, and now who are you now? Zenith replies, I'm the second assistant. Charlotte was about to start screaming again, but Zenith cuts her off. He calmly says, if you don't want to go through surgery, then don't. It's not like you'll die from this disease. So removing it from your face isn't necessary. At most, you'll get wrinkles like an old lady. He continues, a lot of people with this condition accept their aging face. Some even start to like it. That's all I had to say. Then he turns around and starts walking away. But right then, Charlotte opens the door and asks him to wait. The scene shifts to inside the room. Charlotte looks at Professor and asks, so, is it true that my face will start to look like an old lady's? Just then Crescent says, yeah, it's true, but Charlotte cuts him off sharply. You keep your mouth shut. Your presence is ruining the atmosphere of my room. Then the professor calmly explains to Charlotte, yes, it's true. In about a month, your face will start to resemble that of an old lady, and the only way to remove it is surgery. Charlotte responds firmly, I don't want my face to be cut, and I don't want to feel that pain either. Just get rid of this growth without doing that. Hearing this, Crescent mutters, this girl is way too spoiled. Lord Fennel tells Charlotte, sweetheart, if we don't do anything, this rash will keep growing. Don't worry, Professor Goldran can heal the scar too. But Charlotte insists, not unless he guarantees it. I won't agree. And with that, she storms off to the balcony. The professor looks at Zenas again, and Zenas immediately understands that he needs to go talk to Charlotte once more. He follows her out to the balcony, where there were many birds flying around. He gently says, so, you like birds? Charlotte snaps, why are you even talking to me? Zenas notices one of the birds was injured. He carefully takes it out of the cage, and Charlotte explains, I found her in the garden yesterday. She's injured and can never fly again. Just like me, I'll never wear a beautiful dress again or dance at ball parties. Everyone's going to forget me. Zenas softly asks, do you want to get better? Charlotte replies, yes, but I don't want a single scar on my face. And stop talking to me. Do you even know who I am? Zenas calmly says, yes, you're a patient who needs treatment, and I don't care whether you're from a royal family or the slums. To me, every patient is equal. Suddenly, Charlotte notices that the injured bird had started flying again. It flutters around and lands gently on her hand. Zenas says, well, she's flying again. Now tell me, do you want to dance again too? Charlotte gets emotional and asks, is that really possible? Zenas replies, yes, if you want it to be. In the next scene, we see Professor preparing for surgery along with Zenas and Crescent. Charlotte was lying on the bed, unconscious after being given anesthesia. Professor turns to Crescent and says, you'll perform this surgery. And remember, there must be no mistakes. Crescent was already trembling, barely able to hold the scalpel. But Zenas steps in and says, I'll handle the surgery. I'll guide the steps. You just follow my instructions. Just then, Professor reminds Crescent, you were the one who healed Milky, so you're the one who has to do this. Crescent picks up the blade with shaking hands and prepares to make the incision based on the instructions written in the medical books. But suddenly, Zenas notices something in the roots of the disease and stops him. He begins scanning Charlotte's face internally and says, just because something is written in books doesn't mean it's always right. He instructs Crescent to make the incision from a different angle. As Zenas gives directions, Crescent follows them exactly. The professor comes over, watching closely, and says he's impressed with Crescent. But then Crescent says, the roots of the disease have reached the nerves in Charlotte's face. To remove it completely, we'll have to cut the nerves. If we don't, the growth will return. Professor pauses and thought about if this goes wrong, it could damage his career and cost him dearly in the upcoming elections. He decides to put the risk on Crescent and orders him to cut the nerves. As soon as Crescent does, Professor suddenly starts shouting at him. Hearing the commotion, Lord Fennel asks from outside, what's going on? The professor responds, my assistant ignored my orders and cut Charlotte's nerves. Now we'll have to transfer her to the royal hospital to heal. But her face, it will be permanently disfigured. The truth, however, was that the professor had decided to make Crescent the scapegoat to protect his own image. In the middle of all this, Zenas has had enough. Frustrated, he says, to regenerate such a small nerve, we don't need to go to the royal hospital. And besides, this girl trusted me and agreed to the surgery. As a healer, it's my duty to help her. He pushes both of them aside and starts the surgery his own way. In just a short time, Zenas completes Charlotte's surgery successfully. Professor was left in complete shock at what he's just witnessed. In the next scene, Charlotte slowly opens her eyes. The first thing she does is look in the mirror and says, Dad, the growth is completely gone. Lord Fennel tells her, yes, the surgery was fully successful. The roots were removed too. Charlotte starts crying with joy and says she's really, truly happy. Then she remembers Zenas and asks, what was that assistant's name again? Before anyone can answer, a butler says, Miss, if I recall correctly, his name was Zeno. The scene shifts to the royal hospital, where Zenas and Yuman were storing some medicine in the supply room. They're talking when Becker walks in. He tells Zenas, after that surgery, the The Professor Goldran is definitely going to be impressed with you. Just then, Crescent bursts in shouting, "Big brother!" and excitedly announces that both of them have been invited to the professor's dinner party. Everyone gets excited and Baker says, "Bringing you here was definitely the right decision. Looks like we're getting closer to completing our mission." In the next scene we see everyone enjoying themselves at Professor Goldran's dinner party. Professor Goldran looks around and asks if everyone has received their drinks. Then he makes an announcement. Just as rumored, the director will be retiring at the end of this month, and elections for the vacant position will be held soon. He proudly declares that their faction is the largest in the Royal Hospital, with more than enough votes. And on top of that, they have the backing of one of the 7 great aristocrats, Lord Fennel. Hearing all this, Crescent turns to Zenas and says, "Isn't this all so exciting, big brother?" Zenas dryly responds, "I'm not your brother." Crescent frowns and says, "Don't say that," then turns to Lily and asks, "Right, little sister?" But Lily makes the same face and replies, "I don't want a big brother like Crescent." Hearing this, Crescent starts crying while eating his food. Meanwhile, Professor Goldran raises a toast and tells everyone present that they should feel proud, as they've been selected among the hospital's top healers. Everyone cheers to that. Crescent says, "All right, time to start making contacts with the big shots." Meanwhile, Zenas and Lily also begin mingling, trying to gather any information about Alfred. One man tells Zenas that on the night in question, Alfred was looking after Bones because he was completely drunk. Curious, Zenas and Lily approach Bones to ask about Alfred. Bones responds that he doesn't remember much, but he does recall that Alfred brought him water when he was totally blacked out. After that, it's all blank. Besides, Bones says, "Everyone here already thinks I'm a lying drunk, thanks to that Goldran. But I don't care. Honestly, life's a lot less stressful that way." Lily asks, "Then how did you become first secretary? And how do you even know Goldran?" At that, Bones stands up and begins to walk away. Zenas thinks he really doesn't seem to remember anything. But Lily whispers, "I think he knows something important." She goes to a butler, grabs 2 more drinks, and comes back. Let's see how much Bones can really drink. In the next scene, Lily had successfully gotten Bones completely drunk. Zenas then questions him again about that night. Bones slurs, "Yeah, I remember. We stepped outside for some fresh air." Zenas gets an idea. He decides to recreate the events of that night and carries the drunken Bones outside. Bones, completely out of it, mistakes Zenas for Goldran and says, "So Goldran, once you become director, you'll finally become nobility? Looks like you helped Lord Fennel again." Zenas thinks to himself, "Again? That means Goldran has helped Fennel before too." Bones continues, "Of course. You don't remember? 13 years ago. That day changed everything for you. You were stuck on a research project with no results and then that explosion happened. That explosion changed your life. After that, with Lord Fennel's backing, you became a professor and now you're about to become director." Saying this, Bones passes out completely. In the next scene, Zenas tells Lily, "I think we may have missed something important." Just then, Carmilla walks in. Zenas was surprised and asks, "What are you doing here? This place is filled with professional healers." Carmilla smirks, "I just came to have some fun. And where there's more danger, there's more fun." Lily asks, "Carmilla, do you have any idea what happened that night?" Carmilla grins, "Of course. No mystery can stay hidden from me." Then the scene shifts to the clinic, where 3 girls were arguing over who gets to sniff Zenas' pillow that night. Suddenly, someone rushes in and announces that Sophia's brother, Zond, has been seriously injured in an accident. He has been impaled through the stomach by a pillar. Linga and Loie immediately realize the situation is critical, and they need to go to Zenas fast. But Sophia says, "Doctor is on an undercover mission right now. We should wait. If we go now, it could ruin his plan." However, Linga and Loie disagree. "We don't think we have that kind of time. We can't wait for Zenas to return." Meanwhile, Carmilla begins to explain her theory about what might have happened 13 years ago, the day when an unremarkable researcher suddenly rose to fame for saving the life of a noble. She turns to Zenas and asks, "How can a healer actually save someone?" Zenas replies, "By healing them. That's how a healer helps someone." He continues, "So maybe there was an explosion that day, Lord Fennel got injured, and Goldran healed him." Carmilla shakes her head. "If only it were that simple. If that's all it was, then why keep it such a secret?" From what Bones said, I think the person Goldran saved was severely injured. "Tell me, can someone in that condition even be healed?" Zenas says, "Yes, if the person's heart is still functioning, I can heal them." Carmilla scoffs, "I'm not talking about some idiot super healer like you. I'm asking if Goldran could do it." Just then Lily jumps in, "I think I get it now. 13 years ago, there must have been an accident that injured an aristocrat. A healer like Zenas must have showed up and saved him, then left. After that, Goldran took the credit." But Mr. Bones saw him do it, and he's been blackmailing Goldran ever since to keep his position. Carmilla nods in approval. Lily, I'm impressed. Lily lights up and says, I could totally become a detective someday. Right then, Crescent shows up and pulls Lily back into the party. Meanwhile, Zenas and Carmilla remain serious, realizing another possibility is emerging. Zenas says, when you mentioned injuries from the explosion, something clicked. What if there were multiple injured people that day, not just Lord Fennel? And what if, in the crowd of victims, Professor Goldran chose to heal the one who seemed most important or powerful, someone like Lord Fennel? But, Zenas adds grimly, if he transferred the remaining life from the others into Lord Fennel, that would be a massive crime. He gets up and walks outside only to find a commotion in balcony. People have their looking at what's happening outside. Crescent tells him, looks like something's going on outside. Lily notices that Human is outside, arguing with the guards, trying to get in. Just then, Loie arrives with Zond, shouting in panic. Behind her, Zofia and Linga also rush in. Zofia urges her, don't yell so loudly. You'll blow the doctor's cover. But Linga insists, Loie's right, we don't have time to wait. Professor Goldran appears, scowling at the demihumans and says, what are these lesser creatures doing in front of my mansion? He immediately orders the guards to drive them out. As the guards move to attack, Linga knocks both of them unconscious in a single blow, and the girls rush into the garden. Zofia, now desperate, begs Zenas to heal Jond and apologizes with tears in her eyes. Everyone standing around starts whispering, how does Zenas even know them? Zenas calmly asks, what happened? Loie tells him, Zond was seriously injured in an accident. The professor interrupts, Zenas, what's your connection with them? Zenas ignores him completely and focuses on Loie and asks, what's his condition? Loie says, his breathing has slowed down a lot. Zofia collapses to her knees, crying, and begs Zenas to save him. Zenas nods, alright, I'm coming. Professor warns him coldly, if you leave now to heal them after securing your place in the faction, you'll never be able to become an elite. But Zenas doesn't even look at him. He says, I never wanted to be an elite. I'm just a normal healer, and I'll stay that way. Then he turns to Crescent, smiles gently and says, take care of yourself. He grabs Lily and jumps off the balcony. Crescent was completely shocked by everything he saw. Just then, Professor Goldran came over and says, well, at least you're not a fool like him. Crescent stood there, emotional and confused. His mind replayed every moment where Zenas had selflessly helped others, whether it was an animal or the daughter of a noble family. He whispered to himself, no one likes me, everyone says I'm selfish. But I learned what being a healer really means from my big brother. And then, without hesitation, he jumped down too. He turned back to the professor and said, for personal reasons, I'm withdrawing from the faction. Meanwhile, Zenas had begun examining and healing Zond. Just as Crescent ran in to help, Zenas had already completed the healing. Zond was fine. Crescent stood frozen. I'm such an idiot. I quit the faction for nothing. Human walked up beside him and said, you've always been an idiot. I heard what you told the professor. I've got to admit, I'm really impressed. Crescent snapped, oh shut up. I'm only stuck in this mess because of all of you, and he burst into tears. Zofia turned to Zenas and asked, who is this guy, anyway? Zenas thought for a moment and replied, I guess, he's kind of like my little brother. The next day, we see Zenas telling everything to Becker. Becker nodded and said, there's a strong possibility that Alfred survived that incident in his childhood, and now he's plotting revenge. He asked Zenas, when is Goldran's election meeting? Zenas answered, tomorrow. Becker said, then maybe Alfred plans to strike there. I think I should be present just in case. And as for you, I'm seriously impressed with your work. You'll need to spend one more day at the academy as a research student to complete your tenure. As promised, I'll give you your payment and information of your teacher tomorrow. In the next scene, Zenas, Lily, Crescent, and Human celebrate a farewell party for him. During the party, Crescent learns the full truth that Professor Becker had hired Zenas to uncover the truth about Alfred, and in reality, Zenas runs an underground clinic. Crescent begins crying again, Big brother, what will I do when you're gone? Just then Lily says, by the way, I'm not Zenas' sister. I'm his wife. Zenas quickly replies, this girl is still lying. Crescent, now fully drunk, mumbles, maybe I drank too much? I swear I see something like a wraith behind that pillar. That's when Carmilla walks out and Zenas asks, why are you outside? Carmilla says, because these two are finishing my favorite drink. Zenas sighs, I know you stole that from Goldran's house. Human hears this and was absolutely stunned. pointing at Carmilla, she blurts out, "Zenus?" Zenus calmly responds, "Don't worry, she's a good person at heart." Carmilla blushes and says, "Only Zenus is allowed to say such things about me." She then turns to Yumin and Crescent and warns, "If you two finish this drink, I'll curse you. And your descendants too. Don't forget that." The next day, Crescent was still crying because Zenus was about to leave. Yumin thanks Zenus for everything and gives him a letter containing the details about his payment and his teacher, also about something Becker had left in his office. Zenus and Yumin go to retrieve it, open a drawer, and find something inside that shocks them both. And then, the scene cuts to Goldrin's election party. Nearly everyone in the room was either unconscious or dead. And there, standing over Professor Goldrin's body, was Becker. Blood was dripping from Goldrin's mouth. Then we see a flashback of a few moments before, where everyone was enjoying Professor Goldrin's celebration party. Just then, Lord Fennel arrives and congratulates the professor. The two of them begin reminiscing about an incident that happened 13 years ago, back when Professor Goldrin's research had failed and he was planning to return to his hometown. At that very time, an explosion occurred in the Royal Hospital's lab, injuring many people. Seeing this as an opportunity, Goldran thought that if he could save the life of an aristocrat, he could use that to propel his career forward. So, he made a cold decision to sacrifice the life energy of the other injured people in order to save Lord Fennel. But what he didn't know was that Bones had secretly taken a photo of him during the act. Bones later used this photo to blackmail Goldran and secure the position of First Secretary. Back in the present, we return to the party scene where Baker walks in with wine and congratulates Professor Goldran. Seeing him, Goldrin asks, "So, you've come to get close to your new director, have you? Tell me, was that new research student your recommendation? I was starting to like him a little, but turns out he's just as useless as the rest." In the next scene, Lord Fennel stands up to speak in front of everyone, and just as he's about to reveal what happened 13 years ago, Professor Goldran quickly interrupts him. Fennel, however, lets it go and invites Goldran to come forward and give his speech. As Goldran starts speaking, the scene cuts to Zenus and Yumin, who have found the photograph that Bones took all those years ago. Yumin was shocked to see Alfred lying unconscious in the picture, but what truly startles her is seeing another woman in the frame. The scene then shifts back to the party, where we see Professor Goldran suddenly open his eyes, blood pouring from his mouth. We soon realize that everyone had drunk the wine brought by Becker, and it was poisoned. Becker calmly tells Goldran, "The wine everyone drank was laced with poison." He continues, "Poison and medicine, they're just two sides of the same coin. And I happen to be an expert in both." Goldran, horrified, watches as Baker explains, "This toxin was designed to knock everyone out and slowly, within an hour, everyone here will die. And as for you, Professor Goldran, your dose was a bit lighter, but even you won't survive more than 2 hours. I did that intentionally, because I wanted to recreate that moment from 13 years ago." Goldran, trembling, asks him, How did you find out?" Baker answers, "I've suspected it for a long time. But thanks to our talented research student, those suspicions became certainty. That's why I poisoned the wine. So, I could recreate that scene again. And now, Professor, you must make a choice." He leans in and says, "Who will you save this time? Yourself? Lord Fennel? Or someone else? It's up to you now to decide whose life holds the most value, just like you did 13 years ago, when you sacrificed everyone else to save Lord Fennel." He pauses, his tone bitter, "And among those you sacrificed were Alfred and my fiancée." He looks straight into Goldrin's eyes. "So now the time has come. Whose life will you save?" Just then, Professor Goldran says, "You must have the antidote to this poison. Give it to me right now, and I'll try to reduce your punishment." Hearing this, Becker drinks the poisoned wine himself and replies, "Now I've poisoned myself too. That means you've got one more life to save. So, I'd suggest you focus on deciding whose life is worth saving." We then see Professor Goldran stand up and begin absorbing the life energy of everyone around him to heal himself. Becker was shocked by this and says, "So this is the decision you've made? What a shame. I told you your dose was the lightest, meaning you had the most life energy left. You could have used that to save everyone else." Goldran scoffs and says, "So what? My life is worth more than anyone else's here." Meanwhile, the poison starts affecting Becker too. At that moment, Zenus, Yumin, and Crescent arrive. Yumin yells, "Professor Becker, we found the photo in your drawer, and after seeing your fiancée in it, we suspected you'd be here." She asks him why he did all this. Hearing this, Becker recalls the moment from 13 years ago when he and his fiancée were young healers trying to save everyone. But after being told that she had died in an accident, he committed himself to making medicine and saving lives in her memory. However, after that dinner party, Alfred revealed to him that it was not an accident, and from then on, Becker was consumed by revenge. He says, "When I learned it was murder, I couldn't stay calm anymore. But without evidence, and with Alfred missing, I couldn't directly accuse Professor Goldran. That's why I hired Zenas." Becker apologizes to Yumin, but before she can respond, Crescent interrupts, shouting, "I understand what you've been through. If something like that had happened to my fiancé, I couldn't have endured it either. But aren't we all healers? Isn't it our job to save lives?" As he continues, Zenas stops him and says, "Becker, you asked me which coin I'd pick first, right? That was a stupid question. I'd pick up all the coins because I was poor, and I understand their value." Then Zenas steps forward and adds, "If I don't do something now, you'll be charged with mass murder and even Yumin will be affected." He starts healing everyone. Seeing Zenas using just a basic healing spell, Becker was stunned. He says, "That spell can repair damage, but it won't remove the poison." Zenas replies, "I'm boosting everyone's natural healing abilities. Eventually, the poison will leave their systems on its own. Now it's a battle of endurance between your poison and my healing magic." Zenas continues healing the crowd, and Crescent and Yumin start helping those in critical condition too. Becker says, "I already thought you were remarkable, but this is beyond that." Zenas grins and replies, "You could say that. I never got formal education anyway." Becker thinks about his fiancée, who had wanted to become a healer to save lives, but Goldran killed her just to become the next director. He thinks, "I couldn't bear to see Goldran rise to position of director." Slowly, everyone starts waking up, and Becker falls to his knees and thanks Zenas. Zenas says, "No need to thank me, but I'm exhausted, so I'd like a bonus payment." We then see that Professor Goldran was still not healed, and Zenas stands before him. Goldran commands him, "Heal me." But Zenas replies, "Maybe you forgot, you have kicked me out of your faction. So, you can't command me anymore." Professor Goldran turns to his faction and orders them to heal him. But all of them have now realized how little he values others' lives and no one moves. Zenas steps forward and says, "I can save you, but only if you pay me a lot as I'm really tired." He pulls out a paper and writes down a massive amount. Goldran screams, saying he'll never pay that much. Zenas begins to walk away until Goldran, panicked, agrees to pay. At that moment, Lord Fennel arrives, and we learn that even he didn't know the full truth until now. In the next scene, we shift to the Royal Knights headquarters, where Becker was being interrogated. Zenas and Yumin visit him. It's revealed that Zenas used Krishna's influence to arrange this meeting so Yumin could see Becker. Krishna, present there, says, "I didn't know you'd come up with such an excuse just to meet me," to which Zenas bluntly replies, "Actually, I came to see Becker, not you." And after hearing this, Krishna sulks. Yumin asks Becker, "You didn't really want to poison anyone, did you?" Becker becomes serious and replies, "No. I made a poison that would just knock people out for a while. The idea was to make Goldran think he was dying, so he'd confess his crime. But someone tampered with the poison. I suspect it was Alfred. He might have come to the hospital a day before the party and altered the wine. I'm guilty. I knew something was wrong with the poison, but at that point, I didn't care if people died." Krishna then says, "Don't worry about Becker. We know he didn't mean to kill anyone, so as vice captain, I'll use my authority to release him." Yumin stands and thanks her, and the two of them start to leave. As they were walking out, Zenas looks back at Becker. Becker says, "You're thinking about the Alfred from the photo, right?" Zenas replies, "I don't think he survived that accident. So, who or what was that Alfred I saw?" Baker agrees and says, "This isn't just a 13-year-old revenge. You ruined whatever his plan was, so maybe you're next." Later that night, we see the same mysterious man, who turned Aston into the golem. He was also the one who tampered with the wine at Goldran's party. As the wind blows, his cloak lifts and we see he isn't human. He's something that has possessed Alfred's body. The next morning, Zenas says goodbye to Yumin and Crescent, who are both sad to see him leave. Then we see Zenas, Lily, and Carmilla in a wagon, heading back to their underground clinic. And that's where this anime ends. So guys, if you enjoyed this anime recap, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can hit our next target of 15,000 subscribers as soon as possible.